Hey, how you doing? My name is David Patterson for the Pioneer Football League. I am here from Indianapolis, Indiana, home of the Indianapolis Colts and the National Football League Combine. We had the 2015 Youth Football Conference this past weekend. A lot of great information was passed along and a lot of great networking opportunities. So let's get into it. Hey, how you doing, Pioneer Football League? David Patterson here, representing the Pioneer Football League in Indianapolis, Indiana, right here at Lucas Oil Stadium. Lucas Oil Stadium, the home of the 2006 Super Bowl champion Indianapolis Colts. I'm walking along here, gonna check out the Combine in a few. So this is gonna be one heck of an event. The Pioneer League is represented, one of the nation's top 500 youth football leagues in the nation. And, wow, pretty exciting. We are here at the Hall of Champions, the NCAA. About to head to this reception. I want to pull the goal. Don't know what that is. A diving board. Cool. Dedication to ball.
Yo, you out there? You should be in here.
Why should I be in there? Choose a sport. An old school gym. Ah. Boom. Yes. So I said please no scrimmaging or dunking in the gymnasium. Hey, Shamel, can't.
3 hours. But you guys are all incredibly important to the future of this game, so we greatly appreciate your support. Enjoy tonight. Great opportunity to experience this great environment. One of the members of your supporters, Oliver Luck, who's the new executive vice president, leader of the over there of NCAA. He's going to here. What we have in this room is a compilation we identify the top 650 largest youth football leagues in the country, and many of you are here. We then also asked the high school community to come. We have people like Bob Gardner. He's the head of NFHS.
Welcome to, I know what most people think is Indianapolis, but Antarctica. I gotta tell you this, there's over 600 of you that represent 48 states here today. Do you know how empowering that is? I'm coming to you today as a youth football coach. I spent 15 years as a youth football coach, and it was the best thing I've ever done in sports. How can we get them more involved in it and make it a great, fun experience? Well, that's what this day is about. is that we're going to have that opportunity to help educate and inform you and give you the tools to do those things. And you just being here tells me the most about you, that you're not here for yourself, you're here to serve all those that you teach and coach, and we really appreciate you being here.
Better. We don't do it alone. We're very appreciative of the trust and support and endorsements by a number of other organizations that put their name with ours in partnerships.
Those of you who impacted a kid like me when I was 15 years old, growing up in Washington, D.C., make the difference between being involved and being committed, have made the difference between being successful and creating an impact. And I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for people like you in this room, if it wasn't for our desire to grow and learn and gain knowledge and create impact.
Overcome. And we're going to talk a lot about that this weekend. You already have, that how we can lessen some of those dangers. And you guys will play a big part in that, getting out and educating people and educating other coaches about how we can do it safer and better. But I can tell you that while there are risks in football, what can be gained is immeasurable. And when you play this game, you learn about athletics, you learn about competing, but you learn about yourself and you learn about life. I think of J.C. Watts, a guy that I've gotten to know a little bit. J.C. was an All-American quarterback at Oklahoma, but that's probably not what he's going to be most remembered for in his life. J.C. didn't go on to play in the NFL. He didn't make tons of money playing football, but he did make an impact on our country. He was the first African American to win a statewide election in Oklahoma. He was elected to the United States Congress as an African American Republican in a district in Oklahoma that was 90% white and had been represented by Democrats for 72 years. So how was he able to do that? Well, I would suggest to a lot of people that he was able to do it because he started applying. Earl talked about applying. He applied the things that he learned when he went to an integrated school, played on an integrated team at Eufaula High School and in the youth leagues. He was the quarterback, he became the leader, and that leadership carried on. And he learned that in football. Football taught him that the scoreboard doesn't look at color. The scoreboard looks at performance. And he was able to utilize those lessons and help lead our country. And that's not a unique story at all.
People's culture. If you have an organization that has the right values, that puts the players first, that puts the players' welfare first, that shoots straight with them, that coaches them and makes them better. You know, as a former player yourself from George and Martin, you give the ultimate loyalty to any coach who makes you a better player. That's the bottom line. It's the youth level, the opportunity that you have to be a mentor. Those kids are going to remember about wins and losses and the job you did as a coach, but they're going to remember you more for the person you were in their life. And that's what I've heard discussed up here so far, and to me that's what's so critical about the game is great, no question about it. But they'll remember you for who you are and the role model you were. So please continue to do that. As far as the relationship with the officials, you know, we're not going to be, you know, inviting each other over for barbecue or for a beverage after the game, nor should we. But one of the things that I'm strongly urging you to do, and I urge officials at clinics that I do to consider doing, is there needs to be a better working relationship in terms of the officials offering their services and then the organizations taking them up on the offer, for them to come out and sit down with your coaching staffs and talk about the rules, the points of emphasis, and have a dialogue, a man-to-man dialogue on those issues.
What's really interesting, in fact, is that individuals who bully, in fact, are at a higher risk for academic problems, substance use, and other forms of violence in adolescence and later in adulthood, and in fact, are more likely to sexually harass as they get older. So it's really important that we learn how to address these issues and create that positive environment on the front end of things.
Fortunately, and just like
whether you're administration or your coaches, I know that there's both in this crowd, you have an expectation for your staff and your players to execute. When somebody goes down, they have an expectation from you, from the people that are around them, to be prepared to do what is necessary to save a life. And fortunately for organizations like USA Football and their player safety programs, there's easy forums for you to educate yourself with a very minimal time commitment. Cardiac arrest is one of those life and death situations that we as humans can manage with preparedness, with knowledge, and with the presence of mind and willingness to act. I grew up being an athlete, and from the time that I was in middle school, I pretty much had figured out that I wanted to be a football player. Fortunately, my body and my mind developed accordingly, and what you see today, plus about 40 pounds of muscle, is what you would have found in September of 2006 in Austin, Texas. I played for Westlake High School, which is where some of the greats came from, like Drew Brees, Justin Tucker, Nick Foles. I actually had the opportunity to block for Nick Foles, who's the quarterback of the Philadelphia Eagles, from the time that I was in 7th grade. Anyways, I was going into my senior year. I was 6'6", 315 pounds. I was an all-state offensive lineman, committed to play left tackle for the Texas Longhorns. My dreams, goals, and aspirations were coming to fruition. My hard work was paying off. Well, about 3 weeks into my senior season, we were playing in College Station, which is actually where Texas A&M resides. And during the third game of that season, my life's trajectory took a paradigm shift. It was extremely hot and humid that night. The heat index was like 115 degrees, and I could barely breathe even before stepping out onto the field. In hindsight, I was probably already in ventricular tachycardia at the time, but I felt sluggish before I even started playing. But as a high school athlete, as y'all see every day, those that are committed, just brush the pain off and say, "When we go and get stuff, I'm gonna keep going with it." Well, we ate up the entire first quarter, marching down the field, 16 plays, scoring drive, field goal to boot. And I came off the field and was talking to my coach about the drive, just like I always do. And I don't remember if I was talking or listening at this point, but what I do remember is feeling an extremely sharp explosion of pain in my chest. And I was sitting on a bench with no back, I slipped off the back, and the last thing that I remember were the bleacher lights in front of me fading out. Here's where I tell you about that knowledge and preparation, presence of mind, part that I mentioned earlier. Being the size that I am, I was, with the exception of the collegiate lineman, I was probably the biggest person in that city. And it was probably pretty easy to see me go down. And needless to say, the cheerleaders behind me started freaking out. My teammates probably thought I was playing grab ass. Coaches thought I was cramping. And I was in sudden cardiac arrest. And nobody around me knew about it, except the cheerleaders were probably the first people to understand what was going on. Well, after my eyes started to roll back into my head, and my face turned blue, everybody turned around and screamed to the orthopedic surgeon and the nephrologist in the stands, who just so happened to be my parents. "Paul, Barbara, Matt's down, Matt's down." They ran down as fast as they could, and obviously at this point, this is all hearsay, I was lying unconscious on the floor with my life's proverbial clock ticking down second by second. When they arrived to my side, I was in agonal respiration, which Dr. Guzner and I were discussing before, that when you arrive at somebody who goes down without contact, first response is to start CPR. My parents are both doctors, so they felt for a femoral and a carotid pulse. There was nothing. They immediately started CPR. The protocol changes every several years. At the time, it called for mouth-to-mouth and chest compressions. My mother was on mouth-to-mouth. My father was beating on my chest. Well, at about this time, a host of other doctors came down and the athletic department 4 or 5 years prior. It had never been touched. My training staff knew exactly where it was. It was charged and ready to go. It was brought to my side within seconds. They cut off my jersey, stripped off my shoulder pads, attached the AED to my chest. It read that I was in fact in ventricular fibrillation cardiac arrest, and the machine blurted out, "Step away from patient, press red button to deliver shock." Dr. Tucker pressed the little red button, it delivered energy to my heart muscle, and restored my heart rhythm back to a normal rhythm.
USA Football will also measure the effectiveness of the practice guidelines this year. Through the help of Datalist will be the one to, as it relates to the injury surveillance, we will measure the overall effectiveness of this program, and we will continue to monitor as we go. As Scott shared earlier, we don't make decisions in a vacuum. Our decisions come from the experts. And you'll hear from Dr. Sanherian in a little bit on the problem.
To lead the way in doing research and gathering data to help us understand that. And we have developed guidelines with our partners on the football side to limit head contact while not affecting performance. And I would like you to understand that the guidelines.
But because I live it, year round, I can help you sort of understand it. Today's youth sports scene is totally different than when I grew up. I grew up in the 80s and the 90s, and in those times, we had parks that were filled with kids that were playing. We had kids playing tackle for a tag football or two-hand touch that were playing basketball. And in today's society, that's totally different. You got a lot of kids that are walking around with iPads and iPhones, and their youth is passing them by because we've changed our outlook and the way that we do things. Schools, gym is not something that they look at that is a requirement anymore. And so we have to be creative specifically for our young men and our young women these days to get them out and to get them active. It's
a marvelous event. I know some of you may be anxious to get out of beautiful Indianapolis. There's a real cold front that's supposed to come in. I think by this evening it's going to be down in single digits. So I'll wish everybody safe travels home. But this is a nice opportunity for me to spend a little bit of time with you. Let's not let it go unnoticed that your first two speakers this morning are from the Cleveland CYO Catholic Youth Organization. So Mike Golick, who's speaking after me, and we were teammates at the Oilers for a number of years. But Mike went to St. Joe's High School in Cleveland, Ohio. I went to St. Ignatius High School in Cleveland, Ohio. We both participated in youth football at the CYO level there. I think it's kind of ironic, and I wouldn't let that go unnoticed as a proud native Clevelander. Scott mentioned that I served on the College Football Playoff Committee this past year, and I think those of you who followed it and follow college football will probably agree that I think we got it right with the 4 finals. But I wanted to tell you a little story that I thought was really cute. I must be a Buckeye fan. I want to tell you a little story though. So there was a good bit of controversy, I think, as many of you may remember, when the conference commissioners began to leak the names, potential names of the committee members, right? This is the first time that there's ever been a football selection committee at the Division I level. And there were a number of ADs on that panel, and Archie Manning was on that panel as an at-large member, and a few other folks. And then the one name that got a lot of attention, as you remember, was Condoleezza Rice. And somebody, I won't mention the coach, but a very successful coach from the Deep South was very upset that Condoleezza Rice was on that committee. He said publicly that a woman shouldn't be on that committee, that only people who had their hand in the dirt and played the game and suffered through practices and game, only people who had their hand in the dirt should be on that committee. Well, the commissioners recognized what a Jewel Condi was, and they put her on the committee despite this protestation. So we had our first conference call. It was just to introduce all of us together, private conference call. And at the end of the conference call, Archie Manning, who was an old teammate of mine, Archie was on the call and said, Condi, are you still on the telephone? Condi says, yes, Arch. And Archie said, well, I just want you to know on behalf of the 2 other quarterbacks on this panel, Oliver Luck and Pat Hayden, we never had our hand in the dirt either. And for the first time, I think, in my life, I heard Condoleezza Rice, former Secretary of State, let out a belly laugh. It was awesome. Very important to our game, learning discipline, learning sacrifice, learning teamwork, and most of all, just enjoying themselves, loving the game at Division III schools all across the country. We forget about that because they're not very often in our radar screen. My high school, Cleveland St. Ignatius College Prep School, I was one of 3 D1 players from my senior class. One fellow went to Harvard, another went to Yale, I went to West Virginia. You can tell who the smart one was, or the smart two were. But a number of my teammates played at small schools like Kenyon, like Wittenberg, like John Carroll University, Division III schools, no scholarship. Those programs are very important. And unfortunately, over the years, right, they wonder why all of us men love football so much, right? They just don't quite understand it because they never played it, right? So, women make a lot of their decisions in a household. I know my wife does, right? Women make a lot of decisions in households. In many areas, there's a lot of single-family households, and that's often mom by herself raising 1, 2, 3, whatever number of kids. So we need to open up our kimono, we need to pull back the veil, and we need to get women more involved in what we do. Because women will run this country. They make a lot of decisions for the family. When I was a little kid playing football for CYO, Jesus School, a Catholic parochial school, my head coach was Tony Buck. And Tony was a photographer by training, great coach, dedicated his life to youth football and youth basketball, coached both football and basketball, even long after his one son had gotten out of grade school. And Tony Buck did something in the late 60s, early 70s, that I thought was remarkable, and I can still visualize it in my mind. He had all the moms of the boys in the team come to practice one day. And he had all the moms line up in the position that their son played. And then we ran plays. The moms ran plays. And all the boys went over and explained to their moms what they had to do. Right? They didn't have equipment on. There was no hitting, obviously. My mother was very reluctant to put her hands and take a snap from the center's mouth, as you could imagine. But the moms loved it because they began, keep in mind, this is late 60s, early 70s. They began to understand a little bit more about the game. So do whatever you can do to bring females, bring the moms into the mix. I know many moms are teen moms and help with some of the administrative stuff, and that's important. But try to bring them on the field, bring them on in practice. Let them come down on the games.
She's holding the pad in front of Mike. Mike's down there ready to go, snap. I threw Jake out wide. So I'm gonna have, okay, Mike, you're gonna work on a running play. I want you to kind of think you have a guard there, chip combo, go up to the second level. Take half a mile and go up to the linebacker. Jake? Yeah. You know this is where it's going. Jake's out wide. I'm saying, Jake, for you, it's going to be a pass play. I want you to run whatever, in whatever route I said. Mike's going to snap to me, and Mike's going to work on his run blocking, and I'm going to pop one to Jake. So, sure enough, he sat there, you're, and that's just about how she was standing. Okay? Right.
I was body.
Here you go. Ball snapped to me, and I immediately looked to Jake. I just hear, a good shimmer pop. And I looked at Jake, who was running and starts it in, and Jake's out here running, and he does an in, he goes. And he stops. And I'm like this, and I go, and I look here, and Mike, while she's here, Mike is here.
Yeah.
She's ass over tea kettle. He destroyed her. I mean, just completely destroyed her. So he can't see it because she's up to the back, or she's ass over tea kettle, flipping backwards.
I had my sunglasses on there. Yeah.
And then we said, Mike, what are you doing? And his line was?
I thought she'd stand in there a little stronger.
So he's working out for his pro day right now. But probably, I would imagine, the toughest day for you as a mom or as a parent was when our son Jake was a senior in high school.
Yeah, he took a hit, and he got up, and it was evident immediately that he was stumbling, and he didn't quite know where he was. And at that time, I had Mike next to me in the stands, and he went down and met Jake, and they walked over by the EMT and sat on the back of the ambulance, and I stayed in the stands. And a little while later, Mike came back, and Jake came back, and Jake went back out on the field. And I just, as a mom, you feel that pit in your stomach, and you just know that it was the right thing to do. And at the time, I acquiesced to Mike, and he put him back out on the field. And it was a thing that we argued about. I mean, we disagreed on what should have happened there. But that's part of the reason that I'm involved, because going through the youth and high school level, I saw that that went on a constant basis. And to be a part of that change, I'm so proud to be a part of that change, because it's making a difference.
It was an interesting moment, and I never had a second thought about it, and I look back on it now, and I can't believe how wrong I was. I mean, and what I didn't know he was out. He was out for a couple of seconds when he hit the ground. And we were parents that never go down on the field, but this was a case where, okay, they were going to take him to the EMT, so I walked over there with him, and they wanted to take him to the hospital. They wanted to say, we want to go take him to the hospital and get a check. And Jake, the players, as we know, as they get older, you have to protect them from themselves. Players want to play. So they want to play. So that makes it even more important on all of you out there to now go through a system that says, I'm going to protect the player from himself. If we had that in place there would have been no question. Jake would have not gone back on the field. There was long, meandering practices. That's how it worked in high school. We had the 3-a-days, all in pads. And I know, and listen, I know with change comes some resistance. And I know there's probably a lot of people that want to resist it a little bit. Because that's the way I was brought up, and now coming full circle with coaching my kids in the Little League and then backing away in high school. The realities have changed. We're seeing it. And you can either run from them or embrace them, or maybe they're somewhere in the middle as well. The new reality, in all honesty, as I see a great majority of men out there, the new reality of football, for starting at the youth level, is convincing her to let your son play. That's the new reality of football. The days of mom dropping off, junior at the practice field and just going about her business are over. They are over. It is now changed. Now you have to convince her to let her kid play football.
Teaching contract, or is it just willing to sell?
Down lockstep, because we don't have time. If all you threes would get shoulder width apart with your feet, go ahead and stop them down, make sure you're shoulder width apart. What we tell the high school kids on up is it's a 6-inch power step. Boom. For the little guys, we tell them about 3 inches, 3 to 4 inches, power step. Everybody right now, when I say stomp, I want you to take that 6-inch power step with your left foot power step.
Now I chase. Once I get into the contact zone, what do I need to do? Face out, drop hips, control footwork, finish in the hip position. So master trainers, take them through.
On command, you're taking a 4 to 6 inch directional step. We call it a directional step because you're not always going to step forward. You may step to the right, like Coach said, or you may step to the left. Okay? Bigger kids, 4 to 6 inches. You get the little ones, it's 3 inches. 3-inch step. All right? Okay. So what we're going to do is I'm going to say half. And the reason I'm going to say half is most of you are going to be in a 2-point position. I'm going to say half. I'd like to see you here. I'm going to step with the back foot. Okay, and I'm going to say, ready. Hit. When I say hit, you're going to step on the white line. That's about 4 to 6 inches. When you do that, I would like to see your hands come real skinny right here. Because we want offensive linemen to be inside and underneath, okay? Inside and underneath with their hands. Inside and underneath. So we want to see you here. It's a lot like the hit position, a lot like tackling, okay? But we want the hands inside here. Because on the second step is when contact's going to come. This is the power step. Directional step, power step. So your hands are in here. Boom. Okay? All right. So we're going to take the first step first. You guys, if you were on the outside, all right, please stagger across this line right here. If you guys are on this side, please stagger across this line right here. And you guys can come out more this way. It's the bottom of the numbers or below their shoulder pads, okay? Somewhere on the rib cage, okay? Nice and tight in here. We're looking for elbows tight. We're looking for thumbs up. They're going to strike with that part of their hand. okay? And not that offensive lineman hold. But when y'all hit this bag, we'd like to see you grab it. Okay, here's the thing. The next drill is going to show you how to stick with a blocker, close space and stay tight. Okay, so with that in mind, we do not want you to lock out. Okay, because now you just gave the defender the space he wants. We want to take away the defender's space. We want to stay in there. So when you make these punches, you guys, you get in that stance, the command will be strike, boom, right there. Strike, boom, right there. Strike, boom. Coach said, hand, eyes above hands. We want the hands above your eyes. It was just a mistake by coach. We want it, because we want to be underneath it. We want to strike there. We want to be underneath that defensive guy so that we have the leverage. Questions? Questions?
Did you get it?
Oh yeah. Just in case you act up when we get home.
It was in tight.
Yeah.
That bag should be just in front of your shins as you walk.
Send it up. Just a second.
Oh, okay. Stick. Stick. Ah, give a total. Stick. Good job. Good job.
We also try to intersperse some social and some good fun moments as well. So thank you for being part of this. Thank you for leading us. Continue to challenge us. It cannot stop here. This is the beginning of the journey. We need your help from now all the way forward to ultimately continue to achieve a better, safer game.
For the Pioneer Football League, David Patterson, enjoy your week, and we'll be back soon with our 2015 advertising campaign, Pioneer Football League.